If you got questions, oh, I got answers.
I had a portfolio question.
Nope, I don't have answers for that.
All right, bye. I'll talk to you later.
Yeah, man. What's up? Let's do it.
So I was wondering how many pieces you recommend to be in a portfolio. Like, what is going overboard? What is going underboard? Because I've only been doing concept art since like the beginning of the year, and I've never actually submitted like a concept art portfolio or anything like that. So I was wondering like what your opinion is on the amount of work that should be in it.
You should have about like 1,700 images. That should be good.
Okay.
So if you don't have about 1,700, then you're really not going to do well in this industry. So next, no,
I'll upload all of just Google images, I guess.
Yeah. Seriously though, no, you just gotta have a good amount, right? Like you don't have to have like 100, but you should have more than like 7 or 8. You know what I mean? Like you should have like a good, like something that's reasonable, something that can show your versatility in characters. So you probably would already have a portfolio that I can imagine be filled up with like 7 or 8 pages. 1 page for every character that you have, or you could put 2 characters on a page, have 3 or 4, and then do a series of pages of the exploration of how you got to those concepts.
Oh, okay. So you want to show the steps as well as the finished product.
You want to show people that you know how to do art. You know what I mean? You want to be like,
okay,
yeah,
cool.
I can do this art stuff. And yeah, that's really it, you know? So for me, I have like lots of artwork in my portfolio, as you probably know, just from following my work. And that's just a product of just me doing this for so long in the industry, you know?
Yeah.
And so like for me, oh, you know what? Hold on. Hold up. Poopy. I wish I could. Actually, oh no, what am I doing? I can do it. Yeah. You know, so I have like lots of work of all sorts, you know? And I think sometimes people will see that and they get intimidated. And when they go online, they see lots of work from other people, they get intimidated. Yeah, you just gotta have enough. You know what I mean? And enough that showcases. And when someone goes to your portfolio, they can get an idea of what to expect from you and from your work, you know? And so for me, for instance, I have a lot of character designs, but even though I have so many character designs, right? I can't necessarily get jobs working at Pixar. You know what I mean? Like I literally have like thousands of images floating online, you know? But Pixar has yet to give me a call. How dare they? And so it's really just about having the quality of images that people want. And so having as many as I do is not necessary, but having like enough to show that you're competent, like I said, like maybe like a little bit more than several images. Because if you only have like 1 image, there's a fear that a lot of, you know, directors, and reasonably too, I think it's a reasonable fear. Because even the fear that happened to me, like I tried to get take a job as an art director working on this thing for the studio, and they were looking for more stylized stuff, and I just don't have that in my portfolio. So they were reasonably concerned, you know. But ultimately, I think the reason why I got turned down was because I just didn't have any examples, you know.
Yeah.
But I feel that
And what's in your portfolio, are you changing depending on who you're submitting to? Like changing how many
yeah,
bits?
because I do have some stuff, and so I did show them like these types of things. But ultimately, I don't have like a portfolio of that stuff, nor am I, you know, mad about the fact that they were like, nah, you know,
Mm-hmm.
we're looking for someone who can do that kind of stuff. Like I'm like, I get it, you know.
Yeah.
And so for me, it's really not that big of a deal. But if you're really trying to build a portfolio and you're trying to get a job, you should try to build something that makes sense to them. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
This is why I told you, like, maybe you can kind of add some more variety up in there because I don't want you to necessarily be pigeonholed to super obscured, like abstract
Yeah, I
art.
do want to be more well-rounded with that. I
But
come from a background that's abstract expressionism and stuff, so I'm still trying to like find how I can relate that to more realistic images, which is one of the reasons why I really love concept art.
yeah, and it's not to say that you can't bring some of what you love into this world. I just showed you plenty of examples, you know?
Yeah.
And even my own work is sort of, some of it's obscured and it's not like perfectly suited for any and all industry, right? And so I just try to build a portfolio for those who are willing to hire what I like already, you know. But when I first
Mhm.
started, I just did a lot of what I would think of like generic type artwork, but it was still stuff that I liked. So like even now, like me telling you to do that, like I'm still telling you like pick something that you still enjoy
Yeah.
because it's what you're going to end up doing a lot of, you know.
Yeah.
Oh man. Yeah, yeah, I'm a big fan of, you know, doing what you like and following your heart type of thing. But I'm also very realistic. Like I know that it's just not as simple as, yeah, just follow your heart.
Oh yeah,
It's still
definitely.
business, right? A good way
Mhm.
of thinking about this is that if, you know, you are someone who sells a bunch of oranges and you apply to a studio who's hiring people who can make apples, you know, you just,
Mhm.
your oranges are tasty and they're really good, but nobody needs them, you know? So in terms of how many though, like in terms of how many, I don't think it's too big of a deal. It's more about the
Okay.
quality. Like even if you only had the infamous one image, if it's of like such a
Yeah.
quality that's like undoubtedly like
If it's like a
amazing.
Rembrandt, then they're gonna love it.
Yeah, like remember I was showing you that one image of like the eyeballs up close?
Hmm.
Like that guy only has a couple images in his portfolio, but it'll
Yeah,
be
but the
hard
detail is
pressed.
just wild.
Yeah, it'll be hard pressed to be like, I don't know if that guy's qualified. Like it's
Yeah.
to do an
He
image of
doesn't
that
have what it
quality.
takes.
Yeah, to do an image of that quality clearly requires some skill.
Oh
You
yeah.
know, he just decided not to share all of his work or progress up to that work for whatever reason. But anyway, somebody else had a
Cool.
question.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Yeah. Do you recommend like showing like your progress? Like if you did something like you had like one piece that's really good, would you say
absolutely.
they should show like the thumbnails and the whole process
Yeah,
that it took you to
absolutely.
get there? So also,
Yeah,
would you include like maybe like a 3D piece and how you got there, like the concept, like if you were able to like 3D model a
yeah.
print?
If that's something that you did, yeah.
Okay.
I usually recommend people stick to a subject in their portfolio because you don't want to send the wrong vibes about like you know, you don't want to send the wrong vibes on what you want to actually do, you know?
Okay.
Because even like doing a concept of your model and stuff like this, I mean, I'm really changing my mind about a lot of this too, by the way, because I just know that the future is here, and like a lot of this stuff is so much easier to do than it was, years ago. Like it's much easier to kind of do your own concept in 3D, and it's in 3D. And so like for me, it's really just a matter of like, what you call it? What is it that you actually want to do, and just know that it takes time to do it. It just takes time. And so the more you focus in on your ability to have like one specific skill, the better. But like I said, times to be changing,
Yeah.
And so a lot of stuff that I'm going to show you something too. Like I used to, because I'm like art directing this project, and part of that art direction, I'm doing something that I'm calling being creatively responsible, meaning that I'm trying to harness the final take of whatever our project is. Like even right now, I'm like practicing doing illustrative storyboards, because it's going to be a thing that it's going to be a thing that like me and my team will have to do, is like do a lot of stories. So I'm like getting better at storyboarding, but it's like interactive storytelling too. And so what I'm doing as well is like I'm trying to get good at like creating previs models. And so let me show you an example of a software that I was learning. So this is I just got this today. I was doing a little bit of this today when my dog was sleeping. This character creator 3. And this thing is bonkers, man. No, not because it's like creates like pretty cool looking characters, like even as just a base character, you know what I mean? Like nothing that's like fancy. So check it out, right? So I'm really new to this, so don't ask me any questions if I don't have answers to them, I'm just going to tell you. But okay, I'm trying to rotate it. But yeah, you can go into like these morphing tools, and like you can like, scale her head. Let's try to get in there. I don't know enough of the hotkeys to do this perfectly. Okay. So her head is like matching to one of these other female character heads. It's super crazy. It's kind of creepy too. Ugh. Right? It's kind of like how in video games they let you create your character's face and stuff like that.
Yeah.
It's kind of like that, but like you can like mix it with a male's face too.
Oh man.
But like, although this is like really bizarre and it's not like 100%, what you call it, like realistic, but you can kind of like create a pretty good base model. And I do not want to save. Oh, do I have to save? Would you like to save? No. Replace all. But you can like create like whole scenes in there with animations and poses. And all that's cool, but it's like, I think people use this for DAZ 3D too, which is nice. But really what I really am jazzed about is less about the tool being used in the way that I just. Oh, it's funny. His back of his hair is missing because it's not relevant for the shot. Interesting. But like, obviously you can create like a composition and what have you, and especially for like concept art, like you can imagine I don't know how. All right, do that, and then we can do something like smart blur. Right, just make it feel a little bit more painterly. You know, you can totally like use this like to illustrate with too, right? Which is, I think a lot of people do. They use this like for marketing and all this kind of stuff where they can't afford a concept artist. And if you're doing something very realistic, you know, remember I was talking about like realism is sketchy because tools are only getting easier, right? This is like a prime example of this. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Like,
yeah, it's super 3D looking right now, but the more
bless you.
more I paint on it, thanks, the more I can probably eliminate that 3D look. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's
like a Sargent painting or something.
Yeah, and so then what I am trying to get across, though, I'm adding too much details. What I'm trying to get across, though, is like, although that's cool that I can do that, what's really cool is that this is still like you can manipulate it. Like the person's face, it looks like a drug addict there. Oh my God. Oh no. Let's go all in on this. Let's just tweak all the settings. Oh no.
Wow.
Yeah, see? The future. It's actually pretty tight from that angle. Super styled. But you get my point, right? Like it's super, you know, you can do all kinds of cool stuff. But what's really cool about this is that you can actually export this model. So you can actually create like a very reasonable low poly, take it into ZBrush or something, and then manipulate it, and all the textures and stuff are still there. So you can get all of like the UV, and it's the software is you know, isolated. So if you don't manipulate the UV coordinates and all that other fancy stuff, you know, then you actually are left with something that is really easy to iterate on. And it, like, you know how I was like manipulating features based off of other models? Well, you can like bring in your own models that you've made and it will manipulate and morph to those instead if you wanted to. You can pick from your own.
Oh, okay.
So it's actually pretty versatile to create even unique characters, right? And that was the main reason why I even looked at it, because of that simple fact that you can do that. Because I'm trying to think of ways to improve the pipeline, you know?
Yeah.
And ultimately, what I'm trying to get across to you is that, like, you know, if you show a client that you can do 3D and you can concept and do all stuff, some clients might find value in what you do because, well, hey, we don't really need a, you know, hardcore good artist. We need someone who's a little more technical, but also has some creativity, you know, then you're gonna demonstrate some value to that person if you show that in your portfolio. I'm just saying that there's very few people who are incredibly technical and creative. There's very few, you know, and to be amongst those, you just got to start working on one thing at a time. That's all I'm getting at, you know.
Gotcha. Yeah.
Like get really good on either the creative side, then move on to the technical side, but you can always learn both. Like I was always learning 3D, even though I was focused in on 2D. Like all of it had value to me. Anyway. But absolutely show process. Absolutely.
Okay, cool. Thank you.
Totally. Any other questions?
How did you add that gradient map layer?
How dare you? It's my secret, dude. I can't tell you all the secrets.
We saw that. I'm like, what's this magic?
Now it's really good for effects or doing like some really quick, like make everything feel like it has color. Yeah, you just make gradient map. You go, you go here, gradient map, not gradient map, but bam. And then right here you have, it's not going to be these ones, it's going to be some other set of gradient maps. But let me just show you. Let's just pick one that I have already made. Like this.
Oh, so you could adjust your presets?
Yeah, you can go in here and you can change the color of it. And then you can be like, okay. And basically it's a map of values between 0 and 1, bright to dark. And so it's like, as soon as you get to the brighter values, any value that lives within this range will be this color. So this character is in the lighter range. So if I was to do this, she would be more greenish. As you can see, a little bit of peeking through. And as I get closer to where she's at, I forget where she's at. Yeah, she's probably more down. It's not absolute white. Yeah. See how that's happening?
I see, yeah.
So that means she's mostly in the mid-range. See that?
Mm-hmm.
And that's how gradient maps work.
Very cool.
Oh, hell no, bitch. I do not want a piece of that. Yeah, but you can actually use gradient maps as a good way to do colors on your characters. But the way that I showed you guys is probably one of the best ways to do it. Like with just regular colors.
The color layer or the
Yeah, because you have a lot more control and it's less like it doesn't feel as
Is there a way, I think I've seen this like in a tutorial a long time ago where I think it was like a Feng Zhu tutorial, and he was like painting in like a color layer or just like on one layer, and he was able to toggle on and off into like a black and white layer. And then when he painted in black and white, like it adjusted the colors that he was selecting somehow.
I think he did that through view. He actually just set the color of the painting. He actually didn't turn the image to black and white.
Okay.
He just made like it's like the hotkey that we had. I forget what it was, where you make the whole thing black and white. But there's a thing where you go to image mode and then you change the indexed color. Oops. Actually, I think it's under, where is it at? Actually, yeah, it's like when you press Control Y, for instance, it will switch you to CMYK. But what you want to do is actually have it go to a different mode. But I almost never use it, so that's why I don't really know where it's at the top of my head. My friends always use it, but it doesn't grayscale it. It does a dot 20%. You have to like go to the settings and make sure that it does that. So whenever you press Control Y, I think it was like this, but it says discard hidden layers. Do I not have to have these layers? Is that what's going on here? Let's do this. Flatten layers. Full. I'm not going to get rid of these. But I don't do it often, but it's a way to, it's like the dot 20%. I remember that much. Dot 20%. Photoshop. Dot gain. 20%. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm not going to read this. But essentially, yeah, it's essentially what I'm suggesting, though. Okay.
Okay.
And you put the setting on, and then all of a sudden, everything's black and white, but it's not really. It's just this mode, right? And so the mode is in black and white, and what ends up happening from there, right, is that when you color pick and do all that fancy stuff, you're actually color picking the actual colors, you know? You're not actually picking from black and white. But that always feels like Sketch City, because like, how do you remember all the colors that you had underneath? That's some master level stuff to be going in there and not worrying about that. You know? And there's another way to do it that I can show you right now that works. And it's the same principled idea. And that's just basically changing your color pick options. So what that looks like is like this. So you would, let's say you do this, and so you have a black and white image through the color layer, which is my favorite way to doing this. And then let's say we actually add the gradient map, right? So that we get this effect, okay? And so now let's make a layer here. And when I color pick, I'm actually color picking that gray, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like even here, you can see in the layers that it's actually that gray, you know? But let's say I wanted to get that like pinkish color that I have here. Well, if we go to the eyedrops options, and then you can do, current layer, current below and below, right?
Mm-hmm.
Let's do that, and let's move this underneath. And so now when we pick this, it doesn't look like it's the color, but if you look over here, it is.
I see.
And when we turn off this, it's that. Because all I'm saying is the current layer and everything below it. So this layer on top is not going to be affected.
That's cool.
You have to go to your color picking settings to do that. And the default is all layers. Right? That's the one that you used to. That's the most intuitive one. Like, I want this color. This is the color picking. Now, there is reasons to do what I just showed you. There's plenty of good reasons, right? You just decide when those make sense. That's all. Usually when I'm working on production type concept art, and what I mean by production type concept art, I mean concept art that I know is going to go through a pipeline of some sort and other people are going to deal with it, you know, then I try to be a little more fancy with my layer management. So that way people can like do stuff.
Okay. So usually when you're just sketching around, you kind of
I just do all
minimal.
one layer.
Yeah.
I don't need it to be organized. I'm pretty good painting, right? But like if I know like, oh, okay, this is going to be reviewed and iterated upon a lot, and like we're going to do like some sort of animatic, and this character is going to be moved, like, you know, I'll do all sorts of fancy layer work, you know. Sometimes what I'll do is like, just to keep myself creative, like I'll just paint and then I'll take everything out after the fact, you know.
Uh-huh.
But for the sake of this demonstration, I'm not going to do any of that. Right now, I'm just focusing on how quickly can I make cinematic shots. Ooh, bitch. Anyway, and then using maybe gradient maps. Gradient maps are great for just quick compositional feel stuff. You know?
Yeah.
We can go here, for instance.
Can like set up a really cool mood really quickly.
Yeah, make it feel like a cinematic keyframe. You know, and it gives you a good idea of like the color, especially if you put this on like a color map, so you can see how the story evolves through color. And then using gradient maps to do that. You know?
Yep. See.
You know? Cool.
I mean, I don't, but yeah.
All right. Give me 1 second, guys. Keep thinking of more questions to ask. I'll be right back. I'm gonna get something to drink. I forgot to grab a drink. I was just laying down. I'm so tired. But I'm gonna get something to drink. I'll be right back. Give me 1 moment. All right, I'm back. It's funny. I was downstairs and my wife's asking my daughter like a million questions, and she was like, "Shut up! Stop asking questions." And it's funny because my daughter does that, and my wife's like, "Oh, I'm just doing what you do," you know? Because I guess my wife was trying to watch a movie, and she was asking like, "Why did they do that? What's that about? Who's that?" You know? And now she's doing it back to her. It's really funny. Could hear them yelling at each other right now. Anyway, any more questions?
I'll think of some. Let me.
Yeah, I'm looking at some reference right now. And the reference that I'm looking at is stuff like this. Now, this is obviously a lot better than what I'm doing. But I'm just studying, right? So I'm just saying, okay, how can I like accomplish some of these images in a matter of seconds? You know, versus however long these people take. Yeah. I'm almost certain they take more than seconds. Well, I'll follow you back, Nikolai. I'll follow you back and I'll steal all of your art. No one will ever know you existed. I will lead the frontier of this aesthetic, and everyone will just say, "You paint like me." Now he definitely copied from Peter, so I don't feel too bad. We're all just copying from each other. Peter. Yeah, this image specifically. Yeah, he's definitely a fan of Peter. For show, using the same brushes. I'm using the brush right now too, bro. I see past you. What? Liking his own work, dude? No, I do that too sometimes so I can find it easier. because I have so much worse. So funny. All right, anyway, this is really good. Oh yeah, I'll follow you back too, Lucia. Ooh, these are boss. She's definitely a fan of Max Greek. Anyway, that's dope as hell though. I like that. Let me see if I can find an image that he likes that's from Peter. Peter hasn't done anything for a long time. So we might not see it right away. I might have to just search it. Oh, here we go. Peter Jablinski. So this image right here. See the similarities?
Mm-hmm. Very
But
painterly.
yeah, it's definitely different. Let's make no mistake there. It's different. You know? But that's neither here. That's neither there. This is super cool. All right, anyway. Go back in time. Start with something a little more digestible, easy for me to do. Okay. Don't get me wrong, I can do the painterly style, but I'm all about that speed. So there's something else that I've seen one of my friends do that I really like. So I'm going to try to do that right now too. So what you guys are experiencing is AJ live studying. So you guys better best appreciate it. So he does this thing, specifically with his painterly stuff. Like this stuff right here. I love it. I remember when he was practicing to get good at this stuff too. He was like, I'm no good at environments. And then he got real good at environments.
I really like this brushwork on this style.
Yeah, he's great. But he definitely stole from Dice Tsusumi, famous Pixar artist. But why wouldn't he? Dice is a badass. Oh, here you go. So there's this thing that happens. He worked on an emoji movie. I forgot. That's cool. There's like rim of like warmth that happens on like lots of forms. So if we look at this reference that I am looking at currently, wait, no. All right, I need to start putting them back all in the same tabs. You'll also notice that I don't have a million tabs. In fact, I hate having a million tabs. Because I want to keep my mind focused instead of like having it all over the place, you know? I'll save things for later, you know, so I can take a look at it later. Anyway, where if we look at, you know, Yun Ling's work, they don't necessarily have that kind of like bloom. Right here, we see it here, but it's overexposed. That's how I'm handling it. And Dice, I should probably look. Oh, here's a great example where it's like it's really kind of floating around the edges. And here's another cool example. Let's just look at Dice's work. Dice. Why don't we just go to the best? So there's like this kind of like double pass that he does, I think, where he does the first pass is like the light shape, and then he does another pass that's like the light glow that happens right after. And it's some of the best lighting in the biz, this guy. So right now my stuff is definitely more haunting. So I'm a black and white master. So let's try something different. That black and white mastery must take a backseat today. So this is super cool, but how do I go about doing it? Let me put this over here so I can see it at all times. So I can cheat it like I've cheated a lot of other processes, but I know when I cheat, when I'm trying to learn, it's kind of counterproductive, as I've taught you guys many times, right? And there's already a couple of things that I know about painting that a lot of you guys may not know, but that's just from experience. You know what I mean? And right now I'm doing a little too much work, but it's okay. This will be helpful. Let's get some water in here. So right now, this is an environment. The way that I'm thinking about it is that it's being lit by overcast light. So I'm really living in a world of simple lighting. Oh man, this dark background is not working now. It's too dark. Okay, so let's go ahead and have some of the daylight peep through. Go more in the blue. There you go. And I'm looking at this reference and I'm like, okay. So what I should do based off of this reference is just like paint everything flatly that's in the foreground. Great, I can do that easily, no problem. Yes, sir. And then this is really clever. Before I put those details, I'm a fool. You go in the background and you paint in more saturated versions of this stuff. But now I'm starting to question my existence. No, this is going to work. I was going to try it out. That's the whole point. So the way I'm playing this is that these are trees that are lit. This value here, okay, that's fine. Like they are being fully illuminated. Just kind of double down on this. That just means that this is not bright enough. But I'm learning real quick. I'm like, oh yeah, this is totally something I can get good at.
Is there a reason why you like using this triangle brush?
Oh yeah, so triangles are one of my favorite shapes because it's our default dynamic. But also it's like hard, meaning that like I can't cheat. I have to like rely on my ability to paint well. You know what I mean? Like a lot of people like to draw with pencil, for instance, including when they study. And I think it's better to study without drawing with pencil. And the rationale behind this is the same I'm having here, which is I'm trying to learn. And I don't want to learn how to manipulate a tool right now. I want to learn how to understand lighting and environment just with colors alone. Like picking the right colors, essentially. You know? I have all sorts of clever ways that I could do the same thing that I'm doing now. But the same mentality that I had when it came to getting really good at And I'm gonna cross-check my answers here too. You'll see what I do. And see how they applied it. Because right now I'm struggling. But that struggle is not going to be in vain. I'm going to take a note of why I struggled once I compare and contrast. But like, you know, there's ways that I could do this with tools. Absolutely. You know? But can I just do it because I'm a badass artist? And like I was about to imply, I lost my train of thought for a second, which was that like, you know, what's the fastest way to draw a straight line? Just to draw a straight line, you know? Not pulling out like the marquee tool or any of these kind of crazy, you know, Photoshop tricks or whatever, right? Just being a big hit artist is the fastest way. Do you understand?
Yeah.
And that's hard, dude. Like, you're like, oh man, that's really hard. And I'm like, yep. That's exactly right. It's very, very hard. But it's paying off. Now, this is a lot of lessons are being learned here. Okay, so here we go. Hold on before we here's the
So would you approach other subjects this way, like with a flat brush or just blocking things in like that? Or like
it depends
characters
on
or vehicles or
yeah, it depends on what like again, like what I'm trying to accomplish. Right? If I'm trying to learn how to be a better painter, then I am going to do things that will make it so that's more focus on the painting rather than on the tool. So if I'm trying to draw, like I remember when I was trying to get really good at mechs, for instance, the way that I handled that, was essentially I just drew like a lot of cars and mechs. Yeah, so my reference doesn't have an example of this, what I'm doing here, so I'm just trying to guess it out. But I would draw like lots of mechs and like robotic stuff and engineering type things. So I would have a better understanding of how to draw that stuff.
so when you mean
Like
draw,
when
you
I
mean like drawing with a pencil or like a
pen,
line?
just
Or-
hard pen. Like I had, like you know how I tell you guys like learn anatomy. A lot of you guys will probably use like an airbrush or some sort of brush that's a little bit more forgiving. I would just try to learn anatomy with like pen.
Okay.
I used to use ballpoint pen. There's like this type of pen that you can have where it was like black, red, blue, and it was like a multicolored
Oh
pen.
yeah, yeah.
I would use that, and I would use the red for the muscles. This doesn't make any sense, this lighting scenario. This is why it doesn't feel believable. I mean, right there, it doesn't look too bad, but I just know it's a joke. But no, I'm still in class, sweetheart. Love you. Yeah, my colors are all wacky. But I think the reason why this still feels good is because my values are pretty strong. Yeah, that's what's holding it together. The colors do not feel natural. But so here's like a trick that I would normally do though. I would like not worry about it and be like, oh, I'm just going to use like color dodge and let color dodge do all the work. But then like there's still like it's just overblown still, even though it feels nice and cool. But then when I look at this image here, this is kind of what image I was looking at. I was trying to like mimic what was going on there, right? But again, I said there's no examples of it in my reference of me like lighting the foreground, so I was really just trying to guess it out, So I think I eyeballed these colors right though. So let's find out. Let's see. Yeah, okay. It was more saturated. It's like pinks in here. Nice. Okay, so I had the right idea. Oh, wow, that's pretty dark. Oh, but I put those really far in the distance. So it really would just be this. Yeah, so the values were good. It's just the colors were off. It just felt so weird, though, to use such a saturated blue. Was it because the sky was not a good... Yeah, that's the problem. It was not saturated enough, nor was it light enough. It was close, but not close enough. Just needed to go this direction. What? How come I can't do it? All right, so go here, go there, go there. Some more cyan, so that the blue looks more like a tree in the background. Yeah, that does look good. It doesn't look like a sky. It looks like objects that are far in the distance and there's atmospheric perspective. Got it. But see how I'm like taking notes in my mind? My mind's eye? But yeah, like when I was learning how to draw mechs and stuff, like I would just draw cars and robots just with pencil. Right now I'm trying to see if I can nail down like a whole environment just with one brush and focus entirely on the ability to paint well. Like just have a good understanding of light and color. It's not too bad though. It's not a bad first attempt.
Hey AJ, what was the name of that Pixar artist?
Dice?
Dice.
Tasumi? Sasumi? Sasumi? Tsumi. Sasumi, I think.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, he's great. But I didn't do the thing that I was supposed to do. All right, so let's do this. Let's do this instead. Let us do something fancy. This is an interesting strategy. Let's see if I can pull it off. So
when you like first started working at a studio, what was your like day like? Did they have you start off like, you know, doing characters, or how? I guess
sure.
like what are the responsibilities of like a you know, entry level like concept artist? Or I mean, I'm sure they wouldn't like have you start doing, you know, crazy complicated stuff, or maybe they
No,
do. I have no idea.
they do. I think they don't start you super crazy, but they definitely start you with something that's a little bit challenging for sure. So the best way to explain this is that it's your first day on a job. So, you know, there's a lot of onboarding stuff, and there's like a lot of things, you know, you just got to like get used to, like the studio environment. But the best way to explain this is that like when someone hires you, they hired you for a very specific reason. And you should be able to, day one, walk in the door and do the thing that they wanted you to do. You know what I mean? So if they wanted you to do character designs, you should be able to do some character designs. Right?
Yeah.
Like you got to like be able to design a character. If you cannot, you know, then they're going to question your value. You know?
Yeah.
And I think also you like it'll be weird if they hired you and they're like, okay, you know, they hired you to do like character design, and then like the first day they're like, you're going to do a bunch of mech designs for like, oh yeah, you do a character design and they want you to do a mech designs for a children's game, and you don't have anything in your portfolio that resembles anything that I just told you.
I mean, is that a possibility with like smaller studios, or I don't know?
Yeah, so
like, are there studios that kind of like?
Well, before you get into it, like just think of it this way, like the way I'm explaining it, right? Like why would you hire somebody to do something that had nothing to do with their portfolio? Like imagine you're the employer. You know what I mean? Like think about it.
Yeah.
Like would you, like, if you're making a mobile game for kids and you hired somebody like that draws like Geiger, like alien monster stuff.
Mm-hmm.
That's not their fault that you hired them. That's kind of your fault, right? Like that you don't know who to hire. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And most studios aren't like that. They're not going to just hire you because you can do something good. They hire you because you can do the thing good. They're looking for someone to do that job, right? So day one, when you walk in the door, that's kind of what it's going to be like. Do you understand? And so it shouldn't be a surprise what you do when you work for a studio, right? In terms of the actual work. What would be surprising would be like maybe how hard it is. Like maybe it's at a pace that you're not used to. That could happen. But I've been teaching you guys to be really very clear about your work, very thoughtful, deliberately, because that's the kind of stuff that helps you work well in a studio environment, right? Also teach you guys a lot of resourceful thinking, like being resourceful, instead of just like, I'll just do exactly what AJ's telling me to do. I'm always telling you guys learn on your own, like study, practice, right? That stuff lends itself really well to everything I'm talking about right now. You understand? And like when you first work in a studio, it's never going to be crystal clear what you're supposed to do. Like in terms of like it's not going to be like, hey, we want 10 character thumbnails by Thursday at 9:00 in the morning, and we want them to be sketched like this. They'll have like a perfect example or something like that, right? It'll be more like, we have a meeting this Thursday. Like, can we get something for us to see by then? And then it's really up to you to decide what that means. And even better way of thinking about this is like, imagine you went to a restaurant to order a fine dish, I don't know, like some sort of steak or something, steak dinner, right? And when they're like, hey, what do you want? You're like, I want a steak dinner, that's well done, whatever, that's normal, right? But imagine if you went the next extra mile and was like, and also when the chef cooks, can he use a non-stick pan? Make sure it's all cast iron. And I want him to use these utensils. And then can he also use like 5 tablespoons of butter? And then this, like, like listing everything that the chef should be doing, It really isn't that way. You just order whatever you want, and then the chef ultimately makes the meal and prepares it. Does this make sense?
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, so in the professional setting, it's the same thing, right? They're like, they order something, and then you just got to deliver, right?
Okay. Yeah.
That's why I think when you're asking me like showing process is that important, that's why I think it is, because it shows the way you think. And if that's something they want, like, oh, I love the way he does thumbnail sketches. I can see what he's going for, and I can give him feedback on that. And he does a lot of them,
Yeah.
So it's really helpful for the client to see that they can give you feedback, and you could probably take it because you have examples of that in your work,
Mm-hmm.
It's hard to have examples of that in your work because your whole portfolio is just quality, like 100% finished work. So sometimes people get a little bit sketch if they only see 2 pieces, even if they're a really high quality, because sometimes that person's not really good at taking feedback. I'm going to drink something right now. So you feel free to comment now while I'm drinking.
So I since like
Delicious.
studios, I guess like hire like people that do specific like styles and whatnot. Like, I guess is there a lot of like jumping around to different studios like after I guess a contract's up or a game is done, or is it something that like people stay on like for a
Yeah, it just all
while?
depends on who you're working for and what you're working on. Yeah. If you work in like a film studio, that's very much like that, or it's just jumping back and forth. But if you're working on a game project, you're probably on that game for like a long ass time, dude. You know, games take a long time to finish, and you usually want the team to kind of stay together while you're working on it.
Okay.
You know, but it's like, yeah, it's give or take. You know, like I wouldn't really worry too much about those specifics. You know, because it's like it's really hard for me to be like, this is exactly how it's going to be. You know, because
Yeah,
I've worked for many studios, and it's really different in a lot of different like a lot of different places. I can give you generalities though. Games just take longer, so you're going to be on a team longer. You usually get paid less comparatively to like film. Film, you get hopped around a lot more. Usually, concept teams only last or stick together for maybe a few months, and then you're on to the next project. Very rarely is it like what you see with Avatar, where they're like working on a project for nearly like Avatar, the franchise that's coming to be, like they're working on that for like nearly 3 or 4 years that my friend was on it, and I think they're still working on it. I don't remember when the last Avatar was out, but it's been even longer than that. But yeah, that's like unheard of, you know, working on projects at that capacity, you know? But absolutely, you should do one thing when working on your portfolio is just demonstrate you can do quality images and you can iterate on those types of images. Like the ability to iterate is really underestimated. It's funny because, and let me just give you an example because I just remembered. So, like the studio I'm working for right now, they have me hired as an art director, which is great. And this one turned out terrible. This is me trying to be clever. It did not work out at all. All right. Let's move on to the next study. The very first day, sorry, I get like scatterbrained. The very first day that I worked on this project, or the very first day I worked for this team, they were like, "Hey, you know, we're going to make you work on this now, and we have till next week, basically this Thursday coming up, to have a presentation prepared for the publisher in on the merits of the project itself." Right? So like I'm already like the very first thing on day one is like a high stakes series of images. You know? I don't think they're gonna just like straight up just cut the project. I can't imagine that happening. That would be crazy if they did. But I do think that they would be like very concerned, you know, if they feel like it's not going in a direction that they feel comfortable with. You know what I mean?
Mm.
But like that's already like day one, you know. That's what I'm dealing with, right? That's like incredibly high stakes. You know what I mean? And so, but like, that's what I'm trying to say. Like, that's just sometimes that's how it is, you know. Day one, like go hard or go home. And so that's where I'm at right now, but I'm not too worried about it. I feel like it'll be all right. Because the project just got started. I think it's more about meeting us than like, but I think they're also nervous, like the team that I'm working for, because they do feel like it's a little bit weird. You know, they're not sure what will go on, but I can't imagine again. They'll just ultimately just be like, this project's over. I think it's literally just to check to see if we're not a bunch of dickheads. Anyway, you were going to say something. I interrupted you.
Yeah, I was just going to ask about the studies. Like, do you feel, like in this case, are you using references or are you just kind of extrapolating like certain things you're going for,
Oh
like
yeah, I'm using
wavelengths?
references for sure. Right now, I am not. I'm using a different reference than the one I started with. I'm trying to see if the hard brush is just too hard. Like
Okay.
it's too like it's way too advanced for me right now. You know, so I'm like, all right, let's go to something a little more comfortable. You know,
Yeah.
and see if I can salvage it. And if there's like an opportunity here to kind of like realize the power of using the hard brush just to get started, and then using some other brush to do all the dirty work after the fact. You know what I mean?
So is this something you would do like before, maybe like a more like a final piece, kind of do some like experiments or like brush experiments or
I'm sorry, say it
like
again. Not sure
like
what you're asking.
is this like an exercise you would do like before doing like maybe like a final
Oh
piece or
no, no,
something?
no,
Oh,
no.
oh okay.
This is just me studying in general for concept work I'm going to do. So it's not
Okay.
like a warm up or something. You know, it's not like, okay, before I get started, I do this like little study. It's like I'm studying ahead of the game. Imagine that you're preparing for a sport and you're preparing for a game in that sport. Like you don't practice the day before and then you go. You like practice the whole summer. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? And the way that I think about this is very much like that. So like I know I'm going to be doing a lot of this type of stuff probably in the next 2 weeks. Not like right now, but pretty soon. So
I
I'm trying
see.
to like brush up my chops. But when that day does come, I'm still going to be practicing this. You
Okay.
know what I mean? Like I'm
Yeah.
not going to just like, oh yeah, just like when the season begins, you don't just stop training in between games, right? You keep training. It's just that you prep hard before the actual game. You know,
Hmm.
a good example of this for you guys is like you guys would have 4 days of work, right? You spend the first day R&D, research and study, right? You just study, 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 practice, practice, practice. You know, and then you go into your character designs, and then you do some more studies as you discover holes in your knowledge. Now that there's better context, you know, I mean, even this whole project in which you guys worked on is a good case for a study, but ultimately you can use it still for portfolio as you build towards your ultimate portfolio that may get you that opportunity, you know. But it's a good exercise in getting good. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
This one's not as bad as I was thinking. I do believe I need better brushes. I need brushes that will allow me to paint stuff in the background to feel like it's blurry. Oh man, I wonder if I can do this without using color dodge. That would be some next level. So I always use color dodge. But that's because color dodge is OP, man. It just is. Look at that. Oh, that's a little too intense.
Very magical looking.
I'm still sure that Dice uses color dodge at some level, but his base painting is really strong first. That's what I need to do with mine. Whoops. Yeah, so that feels pretty cinematic. Especially when we look up close to it. And then add some lens distortion to make it feel realistic. There you go. Interesting. Yeah, the reference that I was looking at is clearly better, though. I'll show it to you guys. Hold on. Where'd it go? I think I lost it. Okay, not that one. This one. Way more detailed for sure. Oh, that's terrifying. Oh, I love this. It's clever. Nice. Where's the image that I was studying now, bro? Oh my god. I just realized how many how long the scroll bar is. I might have to do it this way.
At least it's worth the scroll. Looks pretty badass.
Shoot. Nice. Man, there's so much badassery. Anyway, sorry if I'm giving you guys a seizure. Yeah, like this blurring of the background stuff. Adds so much depth to a scene. All right. Can't find it. I was going to say this. I can't find it immediately, but I just did. I'll share this for you guys in Escape. And then you guys can see my study that I did for yourself. This one. And we'll go look at this one that I did. But this means that I could probably take this one and make it better. I can paint it to look better. Totally. I think I could. Just don't want to. And then this one's pretty cool. So use this one too. But this one, I want to try something too, where I actually try to add some details to this. So that way I don't have to paint in the facial expression. I'll just do it half-ass. Boom. Here's what that looks like. As suspected. Makes it worse. But I wasn't sure. Maybe it's not. Maybe I can do some. Yeah. Anyway. Yeah, and I'll just do a series of this stuff, and no one will ever see it. You guys will, right? Because I'm sharing this knowledge with y'all. You know what I mean? But nobody else in the world, right? Because I'm here to practice. I'm trying to get better. You know, I'm trying to learn, and so when I'm in this mode, I think this way. And so a lot of this too, by the way, nobody sees me do. I don't stream it. I don't do tutorials necessarily on this type of stuff. I don't post my sketches that are like this unless they're very successful. You know, whatever I post is usually stuff that I'm already good at and things I've already spent many years practicing. You know, and so I think that's why it's always important to recognize, like when you look at somebody's artwork, for instance, when you look at this image done by Peter, right? It's easy to get lost in like the quality of this and think like, you know, this person's just a G. And that when you look at all of his work, like there's no examples of anything that remotely looks like half-assed, you know? Just looks all amazing. You know, where is his like iterative sketches? Well, they exist. It's just no one's seen them. You know what I mean? They're behind closed doors. He likes very few people. But let's see who he likes. As suspected. Oh, likes Betty stuff. Dude, so good. Love the Genesis stuff. I saw something that I wanted to. Yeah, here you go. Wicked Monkey. I love this person's work. I'm glad I clicked on this because I totally forgot about this person. There's lots of good stuff here, man. Lots of goodies. But anyway. This person is a Chinese artist, huh? Awesome. Was this like a stylized to non-stylized version? Man, I love it, dude. Who does this person like? This is how I study too. I just like dive deeper into people's likes to see who they like, to then see who they like, to then see who they like. It's like Inception. And there was a time though where like, and I think this is still true, where ArtStation was really like it didn't exist. So finding people's artwork, you know, was really hard, let alone finding stylized artwork or artwork of people's inspirations. But one thing that I think that was helpful though back then, which isn't true today, is that like when you couldn't just click on those people's images so easily and keep looking, right? Like you would have to dig and dig and dig. You know what I mean? That digging actually led you to find some really obscure artwork and really listen to these people talk. I think so there is a convenience that comes from ArtStation that prevents people from looking further, right? And it creates this kind of opportunity of just all being inspired by the same group of artists. Do you know what I mean? where if you just find one good artist, it was like a treasure. Where now it's like it's so easy to find so many good artists, and I think a lot of artists just emulate one another now. You know, does that make sense? Anyone still here?
Yeah, makes sense.
Yeah.
I'm here.
Yeah.
I actually, when I go to ArtStation, I need to get on my ArtStation game, but sometimes when I go on there, I kind of get that feeling that like everything feels so cohesive, like random people's designs I see and everything. Like a lot of it kind of blends together.
Yeah, there's a bit of a hive mind going on. Absolutely. Which is not entirely bad, but it doesn't.
But I also
bode
think I need
well
to get
either.
my algorithm working because I just need to spend more time on there.
Yeah, sure. So you can start seeing all this amazing artwork. Absolutely. But like I said, like go down the rabbit hole of clicking on those that already are pretty cool and just keep going. Anyway. All right, guys. I'm gonna end the class now. Any other questions before I go? As I'm browsing this, see if I can spot any artists I've never seen before. Oh, as I said that, found one.
Yeah, what was that one?
Spicy.
That looks really badass.
Bogdan. What's up, Bogdan? Oops. Oof. I know Bogdan, dude. He worked with us on our other project. Bogdan is a good artist. Doing good stuff. Anyway. Hugo. My man Hugo, dude. He's really good too. All right.
Yep.
Gonna head out, guys. You guys
All
have a
right.
great night. I'll see you guys Wednesday. Cheers.
All
All right.
See ya.
Cool. Thanks.
Thank you for watching this video. I appreciate it. Please subscribe to watch more in the future. If you liked the video, I would appreciate a thumbs up. If you like this content, you can go to my website, robotpencil.net, where you can find mentorships, tutorials, and a Patreon to get more exclusive content. Thanks again, and I'll see you guys in my next videos.